the last few days, we saw enough details about Operation Sindoor. How is it relevant to internal security? How is it related to defense, that is the external security? It is not directly linked to internal security, but we have seen how an external event in international relations can impact domestic events. Today's class is not about international relations, it is not about internal security, but purely about the evolution of science and tech aspect of defense. Okay, so why are we talking about this? You need to have a context. In defense, the biggest problem of our country is we are depending on foreign countries for our equipment. In this article, we are going to see Operation Sindoor as a success metric for developing India's defense sector, because we got a validation. The fact that we were able to neutralize all the weapons that were used to attack us is a very good validation for India's defense ecosystem. All the scientists associated with India's defense ecosystems. Okay, so we will be using this article to show, or at least try to write an answer. This is about answer writing. So we will be learning. So this article is very good for using it as a mains answer directly, because it is full of information. So I have changed some aspects of the orientation given in the article and made it more mains friendly. It is also important for prelims. So understanding this timeline is extremely important when you are preparing for a topic like defense. Okay, so let's see. So the inspiration for this whole class is this Indian Express explained article about Indian tech in Operation Sindoor. You can download this PPT from this channel. Okay, I'll be posting it after this lecture. Firstly, before we get into the answer writing part, I will give you a basic explanation of the information that you need to write an answer. When you're talking about defense technology, what is it that we need? What are the principles which says that, okay, this technology that we have is good for our country? Okay, when you're looking at a structure like this, pyramid structure, always look from the top and also from the bottom. Depending on the context of the question, you can use it either way. Firstly, why do we need indigenous defense system? What do you mean by word indigenous? Indigenous, simply put, made in India. If you are producing something locally, that is called indigenous. What do you mean by this operational sovereignty? See, what is sovereignty? We are discussing it almost every day. What is sovereignty? Exactly. Freedom from external influences. When you are importing, do you have freedom? You are always dependent on someone. So the first point that you need to see is whether we have operational sovereignty or not. For any defense system, what is a good defense system? A defense system which has operational sovereignty. Freedom from external control in defense decisions. See, if you want to depend on someone, you cannot have this. You have to move away from that. Second aspect, technical self-sufficiency. What do you mean by this? What is self-sufficiency? What is the word that we are using? Atmanirbharta. Okay. What do you mean by self-sufficiency? Anyone? Exactly. We are not depending on anyone else. This is again a manifestation of the sovereignty we have. How we conduct our operations, how we produce our weapons, in both the aspects, there is a sense of self-dependency. You are not extending your hands to seek help from anyone. That gives a lot of confidence to the defense sector. Next thing is, okay, you have the technology, you have the R&D. What if you don't have a manufacturing base? You have an idea, but you can't execute it. You don't have the manpower, skills, machines, technology that can bring this idea into a reality. That is also a problem. So, the third pillar that we have to focus on is industrial foundation, manufacturing, defense manufacturing in India. Okay. So, these are the three basic needs or the principles of defense technology. As a matter of philosophy, these are the things that we need. So, this will guide our needs. Now, when you take a look at the framework that you have to read, you can note this down. Firstly, ask yourself, what is the purpose of India's defense? Is it to attack? It is to create deterrence. India's principles are never to attack. We create these weapons for peace. So, the very design of our weapons is decided by our intent. We want to have operational sovereignty, but it doesn't mean that we are going to go and attack. We are not using that sovereignty to attack someone. We are using it to defend ourselves. Why does a nation need indigenous defense technology? There are some keywords that you need to use in your answers. What are those keywords? What is the meaning of those keywords? Let us understand. National security is the first point. Purpose, write down. National security. Second point, strategic autonomy. What do you mean by strategic autonomy? Autonomy means independence in decision making. Why are we using the word strategic here? For every activity that we are doing with respect to our defense systems, that activity is not based on someone's dictation. Like, if it helps India's needs, only then we will do it. Not just for the time being, but also for the future. So why do we need a strategy? Why do you want a strategy to prepare for this exam? The margin for error is close to zero. Whenever you are having a strategy, you are ensuring that every case is accounted for. Every worst case scenario is accounted for in your planning, and it is incorporated in your design, both on paper and execution. That is the meaning of strategic autonomy. Next, sanctions proof supply. What do you mean by sanctions? Sanctions here means external agents trying to control the supply of raw materials to our country. I will tell you a brief story of why this happened. In 1998, India conducted a nuclear weapon test. Any idea where we did that? Pokhran. Did you watch that movie? Pokhran. Very studious, huh? Sometimes do watch movies, but after you finish your daily work. In that, we try to avoid American GPS also, the satellites, by working in the night. Here you have to understand the concept of sun synchronous, geosynchronous satellites, because when the satellite is out of sight, when it is not tracking that particular point, we did most of our work during that time. You will know this in science and tech class, but I'm just elaborating. By the way, how many of you did yesterday's homework? Water resources. See, you got to take things seriously, right? Okay. It's, you have enough time. It's still not an excuse. You have to take your work seriously. Like when you're sitting in this class, you should take something out of it. This is not for entertainment. This is not an infotainment class. This is meant for serious preparation. So I expect some, you know, seriousness. It's not too much to work. All you need to do was look at one infographic that is given in NCRT, one table. Anyway, I'll come back to that at the end of the class. Uh, yeah, where were we? We were talking about Pokhran test. So at that point of time, when the test was successful, USA imposed sanctions. Sanctions means restrictions on trade, money, people, technology, whatever. It can mean anything. What kind of sanctions, etc., we will deal in. I mean, it will be discussed in the international relations basics classes, but understand the meaning of the word sanctions. So, if we have a technology, it should not threaten anyone else. So, it is important for India to create the trust in international community, saying that whatever we do, we are not here to threaten anyone. So India's image is so important. India has nuclear weapons. Okay. But we also have something called no first use doctrine. Okay. Why are we doing that? Because it is important to create an image. Otherwise, if sanctions are imposed, let's say US says that we will cut off trade ties with India. What will happen to all the engineers or seeking jobs from US? These kind of repercussions or consequences should not affect Indian welfare. What you do domestically, internationally, can affect our Indian society. Therefore, it should be sanctions proof. The supply of raw materials, if we are depending on someone, should be in such a way that the defense technology for which that material is used, the country is not feeling threatened to supply. So these are the bare minimum understanding of the purposes. So this should be visible in your answer. And since we are writing answers only in 150 words, it is difficult to communicate such complicated ideas without the help of this keywords. So that's why when you prepare your notes, these are the words that you have to have. Why? National security, strategic autonomy, sanctions proof supply. If these words are visible, you are communicating the intent in the shortest possible way, in the fastest time. Do you think this purpose of indigenous technology will change no matter what article is given? This is how you prepare your short notes. Clear? Short notes does not mean condensing a large article into small article. If you can't put this in a framework, in a proper structure, you are not going to touch it again. You do this for 30 days, on 31st day you will realize that this is a pile of junk that can never be used again. So that is not how you make short notes. You have to first understand the issue in a 360-degree manner, then look at the questions that are asked, then decide what should be there in your short notes. Only when you understand the topic completely, that is when you will be able to write correct keywords. Now, second aspect. What are the core units or the fundamental building blocks of a defense technology? Firstly, radar. I gave you one work yesterday. What is the difference between a radar and a sonar? Did you do it? Exactly. So, both of them have similar purposes, but the environment in which they are working. One is in land or air, other one is in water. Method might be different, purpose same. So, radar or a sonar, for example. Why is it doing that work? Because we have to detect the threats. Next is guidance systems. What do you mean by guidance systems? Let's say you have a missile. Should it be guided or should it be launched and let it hit whatever it wants? What will happen if there is no guidance systems? It can hit anything and anyone. You launch, let's say, you launch a rocket or a missile when in a hypothetical situation. I'm not saying that it can be possible in real life. Let's say there is a Pakistan flight and it is flying over, let's say, Turkey or something. You hit the Pakistan flight. Flight moves away. Missile lands in Turkey. Your target is Pakistan, but you have hit Turkey. You have dragged another country into war. This is what happens in the absence of guidance systems. So, do you think this is needed or not? When India says that we are a nation that believes in peace, but we are not going to tolerate any terrorist activities. That is why we carried out Operation Sindoor. Be very clear about our intent of Operation Sindoor. It is not to seek revenge. It is to dismantle terrorist infrastructure because we have a zero tolerance policy towards international terrorism, cross-border terrorism. So, guidance systems are necessary. The missiles. Obviously, why do you need missiles? You detect, you stop them from attacking us. How do you stop? Through these missiles. Command centers. What do you mean by command center? What is a command center? You must have seen a lot of English movies where there is this high tech, like let's say a spy movie or a any high tech movie where the hero walks into a big hall where there is a lot of computer screens, etc., where you can see everything and anything, and he'll be giving commands, like say James Bond movies or something. He'll be giving commands that this should happen, that should happen. How do you coordinate? Let's say one of your personnel is in Hyderabad, the other one is in Mumbai, the other one is in Delhi, and three of them should be coordinating. There should be some central nodal agency that does this activity. That is a command center. Integrated command center. That is also a prerequisite of a good defense system. Now, what is the process to bring this need into an efficient technology? How do we carry out this research and defense? You need to understand that, right? How is the capability built? When you invest money, funds, investment in R&D, long gestation tech cycles, dual use application. What do you mean by long gestation tech cycles? Did you hear this term long gestation somewhere? Where did we hear? In our previous classes. Innovation and R&D, there was one article. So are we talking about something new? It's the same thing that is repeated every day, right? In newspapers. That's my point exactly. Once you understand what is to be given to the examiner, it will make your life easier. Investment in R&D. This point is true for any subject, right? If you want to bring efficiency in any technology, if you don't put money, effort into making the process better, how will it get better? Common sense. And especially given the fact that there is a possibility of failure and it will take very long time to develop such complicated technology, you need more support, especially investment in long gestation tech cycles. We need that support. Just because one project is taking a lot of time, you cannot say, I don't want to do this. Dual use applications. What do you mean by dual use applications? What is dual use? What is the meaning of the word dual use? Dual, what does it mean? Two. Two uses. Two types of uses. Now, can you tell me what are the different types of uses of any defense equipment material? Defense and offense in terms of war. That's good. There is an organization called DRDO. Okay. Defense Research and Development Organization. This not only does research about weapons, it also tries to solve day to day problems. Let's say if you want to produce some machine that will solve the problem of environment, there are instances where DRDO did that also. Why? Because the science behind it can be used for both the purposes. A classic example, nuclear fission. I keep on giving this same example. It's a very popular example. That's the reason I'm giving this. Nuclear fission. At an atomic level, you break down the atom, it produces energy. This is the science behind it. Now, you get to decide whether you want to use this science for making a bomb or electricity. Dual use. So, focus on those technologies which can have those dual use capabilities without attracting sanctions. So, it is important to have an international security doctrine that India advocates for, its international image, her soft power. What do you mean by soft power? The amount of trust that we generate because of some cultural elements, like say movies, cricket, music, cuisine, food. Cuisine means food. All this kind of elements will help us get closer to the people across the world. Let's say, for example, this movie, Three Idiots, or Superstar, or Secret Superstar. Very normal movie which is produced by Amir Khan, which was not such a very big blockbuster here. But the same movie was a blockbuster in China. Many Tamil movies become blockbusters in territories like Malaysia, because Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, these countries have Tamil population also. So it helps us get closer to people. We can leverage that soft power, the image that we have, while we are building this weapon systems, because it will help us in getting that raw material supply. So you see how culture is relevant. Understanding the culture is relevant, because it will help us in getting sanctions free supply for our indigenous systems. And finally, what is the proof of capability? You have Operation Sindoor. Real-time performance. So these are the metrics by which we have to frame our answers. Let's see. Now I'm just briefing you about how our defense systems evolved over a period of time. I am dividing this topic into various phases. So not just this topic, any topic. When you divide the topic into various phases, you will see the evolution. By presenting things like this on a timeline in your answers, it will help you kind of present your answers in a very systematic way. So once you look at this visual of a timeline, the examiner will understand that, okay, this person knows how the technology has been evolving over a period of time. And what you put there cannot be arbitrary, meaning it cannot be random. Don't write very generic points. In this, see, most common mistake that people do, even people who have written multiple mains, is that they leave it at this heading. India was this was a phase where there was a lot of import dependency for India. That's all they write. Why do you say so? What is the proof? On what basis are you saying this? You should establish some proof, right? Here you have to showcase some examples where we were depending on our neighbors. Sorry, neighbor as in our ally, Soviet Union. First point. Second point is, then you will say we have tried to move away from that by establishing DRDO. And then in the next phase, we have started investing on long cycle investments. What are the key points to substantiate this point? I'm not giving the information here. When you read the article, you search for it so that your mind is active to find out, how do I support this point? How do I find a proof for this point? Once you got a direction, you now know how to search for it. Clear? Okay. Now, DRDO formation and defense PSUs. Why are we talking about defense PSUs? I told you, unless you have an industrial foundation, an industrial foundation should translate into that deterrence capability that we have. Okay. So, efficiency is a hallmark in every aspect of the foundational principles that we talked about. Okay. Whether it is operational sovereignty or industrial foundation or technical capabilities, in every sphere we need to be the best. Otherwise, we will not be producing results. So, DRDO was formed, defense PSUs like HAL are formed. All this were instrumental in improving our capabilities. I'm just telling you the history part. Okay. Here, you can also briefly quote ISRO. Is ISRO directly involved in defense production or anything? Not really. But the technology mastered by ISRO, let's say navigation satellites, those are deployed by Indian Army. And we are not depending on US GPS, for example, which will give us a lot of leverage because the data will be going to US if you are not using it. So, interdepartmental coordination, another keyword. Efficiency in a government functioning setup will come when there is interdepartmental or interministerial coordination. A multi-stakeholder approach that is working in sync. What do you mean by stakeholders? Participants in that process to bring out that outcome. Clear? So that is what you have to talk about in this phase. Problems, there is no money. Simply put, India is a very young democracy back then. Only 15% of the population had education properly. So there were different needs for this country. Food security was a very bigger need. So we were doing whatever we can in the limited resources we had. And defense PSUs were established for producing some weapons. Now, how did we evolve from a country that is importing all its goods towards becoming a self-sustaining indigenous defense producing country? In short, there might be a question on explore India's journey of Atmanirbharta in defense. You have to showcase a timeline. So various phases. So after when did Operation Smiling Buddha happen? The first nuclear test. So back then we have had some restrictions in form of Okay, you will have to know a lot of treaties like Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, which came much later again. Okay, I'll tell you the brief background here because we can't go in depth. When you carry out a nuclear weapon, it will produce a lot of radiation, it will be damaging. You've seen how in the Second World War, when Japan was attacked, what are the places where that attack happened? Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Those places are, destroyed forever. Even today, the radiation is felt for miles together. So, there were many treaties which stopped this mad nuclear race. What are those is beyond the scope of this explanation. We are not going to do that. But in short, when India carried that test, the world did not like it, obviously. There were a lot of deliberations, international treaties, discussions. India never wanted to be a part of that treaty, obviously, because we want strategic autonomy. Okay? But there is symbolism in our projection towards the world which clearly tells our intent. Why are we doing this? We are doing this for peace, not for war. How did we do that? By naming that test as Operation Smiling Buddha. Buddha stands for peace. So the intent is clearly communicated. These kind of little, um you know, elements are very important for not just our international image but also building the morale of our own country. By knowing the historical evolution of our country, even the mentality of young minds like yours will be shaped. It is natural to seek revenge, to say that we want to feel heroic, etc. Even in Indian military, you would notice that those people are walking into the battlefield fully aware that they might get killed, and yet they are doing. What is the public image? We see that heroic valor in the fact that they're going to die, but in the army, in the military, as far as I've read and understood, in their training, they tell one simple point very clearly: you are much more useful to this country when you are alive. So they are asked to refrain from doing anything impulsive. There is extreme strict discipline where only one person takes a decision, the leader of that you know command or small unit. Every other person will blindly obey that person, so that there is efficiency. They don't want their own team members to get killed, right? After all, they have a family. The soldier that is killed might be someone's son, someone's husband, someone's father, brother, friend. So it is important to put out that international image and how it evolved. So we moved away from that. Again, then you have integrated guided missile development program. Who headed this? Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. What are the missiles here? Patan. Prithvi, Agni, Trishul, Akash, Nag. You can write this down. What is the missile that is considered to be the most powerful in this? Agni. Why? Range is more. What do you mean by ICBM? Intercontinental ballistic missile. What do you mean by intercontinental? That itself shows that its range is very high. What is a ballistic missile? You you launch it, it will use a parabolic path and take advantage of gravity, hit it. Geography classes started, physical geography basic started. Okay. So you will have some classes initially, layers of not earth, atmosphere in climatology. There will be some spheres that you will come across: troposphere, stratosphere, ionosphere. You will be asked about the thickness of each layer of that atmosphere. So I'm asking you to link it. When I launch a ballistic missile, and if it has to cross a continent, will it go into outer space or not? Be curious. I'm not going to give an answer. You start thinking and ask more questions. If you take a look at 2024 prelims paper, set A, question number 2, statement 1, if I'm not wrong. The first statement is second question or first question. I don't remember the exact question of the set. It says thickness of troposphere varies according to the heat or something. So something related to troposphere. The question was asked. I don't remember the exact question. The intent of linking this to that is it will help you reinforce that interconnections. Once the principles of that topic are very clear, you will have the capability to deploy them here. This is how you think for prelims while you're preparing for mains also. At every step, be curious, ask why. Once the why is clear, which is there in NCRTs, you will clear prelims. It will be a cakewalk. But on a daily basis, don't just by heart. Why? Unless you find an answer for why, you're not going to clear this exam. Okay? Again, we'll be discussing elaborately in basic classes of science and technology, defense sector. Pokhran test will also be explained there. Okay? But we basically discussed what happened in Pokhran. We carried out a nuclear test. The world was not happy. Sanctions were imposed. 2 years later, the US president realizes that it is not going to work. So he came to India, and that's how Hyderabad started to have its initial software development traction, like the software jobs. Bill Clinton came to India in 2000, just after this Pokhran summit, sorry, Pokhran test. So the sanctions were eventually removed. India grew, technology evolved, and finally, after NDA, that is Prime Minister Modi's, the government headed by Prime Minister Modi, came in 2014. They've had this flagship initiative, Make in India. That is to encourage the ecosystem of R&D, manufacturing in every possible field. The philosophy is to make India resilient, strong enough, so that we don't depend on anyone else. So this is the next point. Now, if we have to prove our worth in international lens, see, people will take us seriously only when we have success. That is true for human beings, for institutions, for nations also. In 2015, Mission Mangalyaan, Mars 15 or 14, Prime Minister gave a very good, speech. And during that time, informally, there was a lot of debate on how the mission costed as much as a Salman Khan's movie. Salman Khan was at a peak back then, so every movie that he, released used to collect 200 crores, 300 crores. So this is probably somewhere around Bajrangi Baijan, or maybe somewhere around that time. I don't remember the exact timeline. So people were comparing. The cost of this movie was that of Salman Khan, which captured public imagination. In comparison, the same thing was done at 100x cost by NASA. Projecting this fact internationally give us credibility. When the world was dismissing India's strength, this integrated guided missile program gave credibility to us. We also had many, technologies with respect to our navy. Even though the vessels, aircraft carriers were imported from elsewhere, a lot of technologies within that were customized for Indian needs. All of this were recently we have had this LCA aircraft. See, we are depending on, let's say, France for our Rafale jets. Those are so expensive. One of the clause while we are buying that is we needed tech on how to make that. Obviously, companies are not going to transfer tech, right? But we have to use our negotiating power. Whenever you are reading any defense production, you will have to focus on this tech transfer clause which is there in the deal. Just keep a note of this point. So another case study is this light combat aircraft Tejas. These are examples that you can quote. Now, what are the interconnected domains? Firstly, you have to see guidance and navigation. Again, this is a success story. Guidance and navigation, we have something called Navic. This is where ISRO came into the picture. Instead of depending on US GPS for our guided systems, we need both radars, lasers, and navigation systems. Radar systems, we have many like Rajendra, Rohini, and AESA radar. What is this AESA radar, etc. details will be discussed in the static classes. Missile technology, we have had Akash. So there is something called Mach. What do you mean Mach? Speed of sound. So when I say supersonic, is it less than the speed of sound or more than the speed of sound? Obviously. Ultrasonic, again obviously more. So when you're traveling at the speed of sound, what is the speed of sound, anyone? 330 meters per second. In a second, you will travel 330 meters. Does light travel faster or sound? Is light dependent on medium? Is sound dependent on medium? See, these are the small principles of 8th, 9th class physics that you need to know. So, missile technology. Okay. So, there are many names which you don't have to by heart right now. Just focus on these pillars. Okay. Then you have a command and control system. What is that command and control system? What do you mean by that? I told you, right? You need to have a centralized agency which will coordinate with various stakeholders. You don't have to go into the details now. Don't worry or don't break your head on remembering these details. First, focus on this. When exam is near, maybe then you can focus on this. Okay? Electronic warfare. Why do we want latest digital technologies on our weapons? Because that brings precision as well as real-time data. Okay? Then, most important principle that should guide is lethality with restraint. Operation Sindoor, a classic case to the point. So you can download this PPT and store it and use it much later. Okay. So we have already discussed how technology transfer is important. There are various methods in which technology transfer happens, negotiations happen. This is actually not a part of GS3. I'm adding one more dimension. Let's say in GS3, you are talking about infrastructure and investment models. There is a syllabus point. Are you aware of this? See, if you want to crack this exam, the first thing that you need to do is syllabus, by heart your syllabus. I'm not going in a linear way and only explaining about one topic. You have to expand your thinking, and that is the purpose of this class. So in that, investment models, what are the different ways in which you can partner with the private sector? You need to know that. Licensed production. What do you mean by licensed production? You give a license for a technology to one company where the government believes that, okay, this company has certain standards, it can do the job. That is one way. Co-development. It can be with a company, it can be with a country. For example, BrahMos. BrahMos is a missile. Have you heard this name? BrahMos? Recently, Operation Sindoor. It's India, one of the fastest and quickest and most lethal weapon that India has right now. It can go much beyond its declared range, but because there are international control regimes like Missile Technology Control Regime, this is one name that you can remember, MTCR. So this was there in news almost for 20 years now, 10 years, 20 years. Around 2016-17, this was a very big debate, MTCR. According to this, whoever is a part of that Missile Technology Control Regime, they should not create a weapon which is beyond 300 kilometers range. So we restricted BrahMos to less than 300 kilometers range. Okay. I'm giving example of BrahMos because it's a co-development. Similarly, we can partner with any specific domestic industry also. Let's say we have a strategic partnership with Reliance Defense to produce some equipment. That is also an example of a co-development. Their intellectual property rights. Again, is this a part of the syllabus? What do you mean by intellectual property right? Is patent the only intellectual property right? Copyright. So you need to know another thing, another basics. What is IPR? What is IPR policy 2016 talking about? What are the different kinds of IPR? What kind of IPR is relevant here? What do you mean by industrial design? Is it a type of IPR? All this will be covered in your basic classes. So your ability to think about that point and generate it on the spot in the exam hall in that short period of time will come not by reading newspapers or materials or anything, but by practice. Today I am telling you, like, you can think in this direction. If you are continuing to depend on someone without you thinking actively where I can put this article, you will not be able to clear this exam. And it's not going to come in a single day. It's a consistent effort daily. Okay. Technology absorption. What do you mean by this? Let's say French engineers gave Rafale technology to Indians. We have to learn that, master it, make it better, deploy it on Indian systems. All this requires good colleges, right? Good colleges, good personnel, people who are interested in that. Today we have engineers studying aeronautical engineering and then going and working in TCS. What are they doing? Software testing. An aeronautical engineer who has the ability to, who has the eligibility at least, if not the ability, to design an aircraft. I'm not demeaning it. I'm not demeaning any job here. I'm saying that if everybody does the same work, maybe our policies, our ecosystem should get better. This is the topic of brain drain. Another topic which is a part of our syllabus. What do you mean by brain drain? People who are a part of this country are leaving this country, US, UK, Australia, etc., because they don't find jobs here. Why is it that tech CEOs are mostly from Indian origin? Should we claim that they are Indians or feel sad that they've left India? Do you really think they'll have the same sense of uh, emotional attachment with India? Need not be. They'll show their loyalty more towards the country that has given them opportunities, most likely. Today we have a scenario where people are running after American citizenship. Do you think these people will think twice to leave Indian citizenship? So it's not a matter of pride. When we say that, all the big tech companies have Indian CEOs, Indian origin CEOs, it's a very sad reality that needs to be fixed. Indigenous innovation, fully domestic design and production capabilities are again linked to that technology absorption. And therefore, it's a vicious cycle. If you want to have a licensed production, a partner where you can co-develop, have the ability to absorb and develop that indigenous innovation, this is about recreating the same thing that was already there. This is about creating something new. This cycle is what China has mastered. They bring a very good product, reverse engineer it, make a cheap version, sell it to the world, get enough money, invest in R&D, build better models. That is exactly what happened with DeepSeek, where OpenAI invested billions of dollars. They did it at the cost of 1 by 100 or 1 by 1000 by using same models and reverse engineering it. And now they are doing something better. So recently there was a discussion by our Minister of Commerce, Piyush Goyal. He mentioned that our Indian startups are merely replicating whatever is working in the West. We are not doing something groundbreaking. What is your take on this? There was a divide on the internet. There were tech founders who said that the policy of the government is so difficult to handle. If you dream of becoming China or America or Singapore, we need to have the governance systems that supports the ecosystem. This is the complaint. Both of them are right. There are genuine startups which are trying to do something path breaking, and there is lack of government support. But most of the billion-dollar valuations are nothing but catering to the mass market. It is not easy to operate them. It is very difficult to run a business like Zomato or Swiggy also. But when you look at it from a bird's eye view, why do I want $2 billion worth companies fighting to deliver a Bawarchi biryani to me? How sustainable is it? This is a right question. Market will not question it. The survival of the fittest principle works there. We are no one to decide. Let the market decide. But as a government, as a matter of philosophy, if we have better option, if we as in everyone as a stakeholder, government would want more jobs. If these companies are producing more jobs, all good. But one of them will eventually be killed. Or maybe if both of them are existing, they're going to compete on price. See, because Let's say the Bawachi biryani is going to cost you 200 rupees. Do you think he will reduce his price to help Swiggy or Zomato? No, right? The delivery fee here, let's say if it is 30 rupees, here it is 20 rupees. How long can you sustain on 20 rupees or how long can you sustain on 30 rupees is the question. Because if there is, what is the difference? What difference will be there in Swiggy or Zomato? Is the taste going to be better on Swiggy than Zomato? No. How will you create the differentiation? It's an unsustainable model. That is where you have to diversify as a company, you have to diversify your income streams. That's for them to decide. But why am I talking about that? The fact that we are not able to get out of this cycle and become China or someone else. We have some lessons to learn from China. But we are still stuck in the same cycle because it starts from our education system, our government policies. And if we want to see change, it should start with people. Therefore, in a social contract between the individual and the state, individual wisdom is what sets them apart. Okay? So we have certain strengths and weaknesses, and these are the areas where we are yet to get better. Aircraft and advanced materials. Advanced materials means material technology, like the quality of what materials you use. Let's say if a missile strikes an aircraft carrier, if the material is good enough, it can minimize the damage. Just giving you an example. So these are the areas where we need to get better. So, how do we get better? This is the framework. You are linking it back to the principles. Basic research investment. We need more money. We need industrial foundation. We need manpower and strategic partnership. Basic common sense. Okay. Now, we are contextualizing the entire article given in Operation Sindoor about the various technologies given there as an example of excellence in defense tech. Because we got validation, proof. So, it demonstrated Indian capabilities and Operation identified specific gaps where we need to focus on advanced sensor integration and improve the battlefield communication security. See, we managed to deter all the, but is it world class? Is it the best of the best? Maybe there is some scope for improvement. So we have to focus on that scope for improvement. Now with this mindset, if you read the technology article that is posted in Indian Express, you will find information that is relevant to fit in your entire understanding of the topic. Okay. So now write down the question. India's air defense system evolved from being an import dependency, being an import platform importer, being a platform importer to a self-reliant power. Self-reliant power. What did I say in the beginning? India's air defense system showed India's capability of being an import dependent platform importer to self-reliant power. Okay. Now, how will you write the intro for this? Did you understand the question? India transformed from being a platform importer to self-reliant power. How did this transformation happen? What is the intro? If someone told you this is the question, how will you set the context in the intro? See, generic advice given by many people is that write definition. What definition will you write here? See, I'm not asking facts that you will write in your essay. In your answer. I'm asking for the methodology of your thought to begin the answer. Am I asking content here? Not content, your intent. I want to know your intent more than your content. What is the context here? From this to this. What is this part? Import dependency. What is this part? Self-reliance. How will you show this arc? There should be some example. That is how you introduce. Operation Sindoor, the success of Operation Sindoor showcases India's ability from being a platform importer in early 70s to a self-reliant power in the present time. Context is set. Your intent is communicated. There is a proof. Clear? Now you come to the various points. That is the importance of setting a context, and this is how you use newspapers. You are not going to get what is Operation Sindoor. If you get, you are more likely to lose marks there because you have to depend on memory there. It will be much more difficult to write what is Operation Sindoor details than write an answer like this. Can you list down everything that happened in Operation Sindoor? You have been following it very closely. News channels have been telling us more details than what actually army did. Both the sides. Pakistan even went to the extent of putting video games on their official Twitter handle. So you don't know how to cut out the noise. The only official statements that you have to follow is the briefing given by the defense forces, armed forces and their heads, or the external affairs ministry, official spokesperson. Everything else is noise. You don't know what is right and what is wrong. And your answers will have them as frame of reference, the key answers. Now come back to the question. How will the topic evolve? Tell me, what will you write? What will be the subheading? We have discussed the same thing. Think. See, I told you from this to this, it transformed. I gave you a context. Put a heading, early phases of defense development. Point number 1. In early, from 1947 to 1970, India depended on imports. Now, you have to prove. I did not give the proof. How will you prove now? This is where you go search for information. When you understand the purpose, information will be relevant. If you chase information, there is no boundary where you can stop. You will continuously chase information. Now when I tell you prove this point, you will go and search for that point. Can you give me 1 or 2 examples? MiG aircraft. From whom did we? USSR. How did you write this point? Because you are able to recollect the most relevant point to prove your point. If you don't know what to write in the main point, you will be dumping irrelevant examples like this. This is what you should avoid. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 2 is where we started more indigenous development, like integrated guided missile development programs, DRDO, establishment of defense PSUs. Phase 3, Make in India. Or you can talk about that Pokhran test, etc. Then followed by phase 4, Make in India. What is the national defense procurement policy? These are the points that you have to cover. I am hoping that they will cover these points in science and tech classes. Okay? Somewhere when the classes begin, they will be covered. Defense procurement policies, etc. Your classes are over? Science and tech classes are over? Okay. Okay. So, defense procurement policies, etc. will be a part of this. Defense. Right? Once you write all these points, you prove your credibility as an aspirant who shows that evolution. You understood how to set a context, what will be the structure, what will be the conclusion. What is conclusion here? How to write a conclusion? I'll tell you basic difference between introduction and conclusion. People think both are same, like they sound similar. When you say, I'll give you a basic structure. There is a statement A. You will write something. This is an assertion, let's say. Then you have to give a reason in the body. Because of these reasons. So, because B, body. Therefore, C, conclusion. So, this is what I call the ABC framework of writing an answer. An assertion is made because of a reason which will be covered in the body in a multi-dimensional way, and therefore it will lead to a conclusion. What will happen if you go by this philosophy? So, assertion is that India needs its own defense equipment. Why? You will quote various reasons. What will happen if this defense equipment is produced indigenously? That will be there in the conclusion. We will gain strategic autonomy, Atmanirbharta, and most don't in the conclusion don't talk about specific initiatives like Make in India or anything. That is a part of the body. Conclusion is about the vision that we have for this country. In a bid to become a Vishwaguru or a guiding light on how to conduct international affairs, India will stand tall as a towering example. Something, words like this you can use and conclude with a vision. Writing this will reduce your dependence on luck. Am I saying that all the toppers who cleared the exam wrote like this? No. But to reduce the number of attempts, this is how you have to write. Don't be okay with average. Right from day one, be serious about how you have to present your answers. How are you better than your yesterday's version? That is the only metric you will have. If you want to get better, where should you seek that help? That is the only metric you will have to look at. Rest everything is noise. Let the market read whatever it is reading. If you don't know yourself, you will not be able to find the right answer. For example, unless and until I gave you a direction there, you were not able to come up with MiG-21. How did you know you have to search for MiG-21? The why decides the how. Focus on why. You will anyway forget how in a span of few weeks. So you will have to keep on revising. But the why will stick on with you forever. Aspirants who come back to this exam and clear this exam again and again are those who have this inherent ability to mug up that small relevant information, because the why part, the basic concepts are so strong, interlinks are so strong that it occurs to them very naturally. That is why you will have officers who have prepared for this exam decades ago. They'll just come and stand and deliver as if, they've read this in the morning. That is the greatness of human mind. Do not discount your ability to generate content. But to develop that ability, strengthen your understanding of the concepts. Why is it I'm only picking one article a day? Because this is the discussion that will help you stay relevant for the next year's exam. Rest all the other articles will become irrelevant. After this class, if you go back to that article and see that information, it will stick with you for longer. So I will be posting that on my Telegram channel also, the highlighted article. Okay. After this class, go back. Maybe sometime in the evening you will get that post, or whenever it's possible. Go back and read that article. Store that, because that is the most important takeaway for the day. One article a day keeps UPSC attempt away. Next UPSC attempt, not this one. Okay. That's all we need to do. Okay. Enjoying the class? It's important to enjoy what you're doing. Have fun while preparing. It should not feel like I'm working so hard. You have chosen this. Don't make yourself a victim. Don't look at yourself with pity. It will, you know, reduce your effectiveness in preparation. Start your day with a smile. Do your work with some level of happiness, some sense of positive, affirmations. You will definitely see some result. Habits are most important. Be consistent. Okay. And this is the last time I'll be telling this. If you don't see, it's up to you. If you don't do the homework that is given to you in this class, consider, I'm definitely scaring you, but consider that you will never crack this exam. If that seriousness is not there in you, you are unfit for this exam. It's not me trying to put you down. If you look at the competition, because you do not have exposure to the kind of competition you're facing, people are, like literally lapping up, and that every single day, right from the morning, they're very desperate. The only problem is most of them do not have a direction. Today you have such experienced people who are trying to help you. Be practical in your approach. I'm not saying that you should study for 15 hours a day. It's not possible. But to give at least 2 hours of time to think on whatever is taught to you on that day, not to sit and absorb. Think and internalize. If you can't give that time for yourself, I don't think you will stand a chance in this exam. Don't just consume. Give it back. Okay. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. So this is the last time I'm telling you, when a homework is given, I expect you to do it. Not because I'll ask questions the next day. If you don't do it, you are the one at loss. Nobody is going to ask accountability from you. If you do it, you will succeed. If you don't, nobody is going to ask you. Nobody is going to give you a job. Nobody cares. So be scared. That respect is important. Respect for your own career, not for anyone. I am not important. I'll come, I'll leave, I'll tell whatever I can. But you are the master of your own fate. You are the captain of your own soul. If you get a rank, it is because of your success, your effort. If you don't get a rank, it is your own doing. Prioritize your ability to think. The time that you spend here should be focused on your ability to think, internalize, not just consume lectures. That is the most important thing in this preparation. If time is not given for that, consider you are not preparing. Preparation is sharpening your mind. If you are not doing that, don't be under the illusion of preparation. Challenge yourself on a day-to-day basis. Okay? Please take this seriously. See you tomorrow.